I was just recounting the tale of my fucking what has functionally been the worst month of my entire life, bar none, by the way. This like far and beyond takes the fucking cake. Did you hear how my doctor tried to fucking kill me? Did I tell you about that? My friends were joking that he's fucking trying to sell my organs on the black market. I'm like still recovering and not like fully okay. I went to an urgent care on July 8th. Okay, I showed up at the urgent care and I had like a lingering cough and I had some like weird chest sensations where I was like, it's making falling asleep a little hard, but I was also like, I was sick with a cold for a while. I show up at the urgent care and the doctor sees me and the doctor's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a steroid. So they prescribed me prednisone and they also prescribed me like nasal steroid that you spray up your nose. So I eat like a hearty dinner, 6 p.m. I pop the prednisone and I'm chilling. And I'm like, okay, like, they give me like a 3-day course of prednisone. Midnight rolls around and I'm like, I'm gonna start going to bed. So I get in bed and I'm lying there and I get this like sharp shooting pain, but like specifically in my heart. And I'm like, sometimes I get like pains because I have fibromyalgia. So I was like, okay, like that was kind of a sharper chest pain I normally feel. This is like not what I'm used to necessarily. But I'm like, okay, like I'm not gonna panic about it. Like, you know, sometimes some pains are like a little bit sharper than others. My entire chest explodes in like sharp, stabbing, needle-like pains. Thousands of needles feel like they're piercing my chest at the same time. And my vision starts to go black. I feel like I'm about to pass out. And I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. And the only thought that runs through my mind is, I'm gonna fucking die now, dude. So I shoot up from my bed and I stumble downstairs and I'm like scrambling to call a fucking ambulance for myself. My body is now like, my arms are convulsing, literally involuntarily shaking from how bad this pain is. And it like, it comes and goes. Like the initial wave was really, really painful. Legit like a 7 out of 10 on the pain scale. EMS shows up at my place legitimately in like 6 seconds. So props to them. They show up at my place, they take my vitals and they're like, we don't know what happened, but your vitals are 100% fine. We don't think that you're actually having a heart attack. And at this point, like, the pain has subsided and so has the panic. So I'm not, like, freaking out quite as hard anymore. They're like, we don't think that you should go to the hospital, but if you experience pain like this in the future, and, like, this happens again, you need to call us back and then we'll take you to the hospital. They're like, take some melatonin, get yourself, like, a glass of hot tea, and like go to bed. You got a glass of tea. I got me some melatonin and I go to bed. 8 p.m. rolls around and I get the exact same sensations in my body. And I only took the prednisone once, right? I call EMS again. They show up and it's this really funny like Asian dude. And he's like, yeah, okay, like, this is the second day you're experiencing it. We'll take you down to the hospital. They get me to the hospital. They run an x-ray. They run an EKG. They run work. And they're like, you are 100% fine. They were like, your chest x-ray is 100% clean. There's like a specific blood work test that you can do. And they run that test on my heart. And they're like, you have 0 dead cells. So like what you experienced was not a heart attack 100% because your heart cells would have died. Like you would not be this clean. They run the blood work. They're like, all of your vitals are 100% fine. They showed nothing in my heart, showed nothing in my lungs. They were like, we don't know what's wrong, but if this happens again, like we'll run more tests, but we think that you're okay. We're just going to send you home. The next day, July 10th, I go to the hospital again for the same sensations. So now, and it's like 3 in the fucking morning. I show up and it's a new doctor every time. They're running more gamuts of tests and they're like, okay, let's check your thyroid. Let's check like all of this other shit. They're looking at it. They're like, your thyroid is fine. Your liver is fine. Your kidneys are fine. Your heart is fine. The test that they could have run was like, you are 100% okay. And I feel like I'm dying. I'm tweaking out at this point. Like, my body is like randomly starting to shake. My body is twitching. My leg is twitching. My eye is twitching. Thinking about work while on the brink of death, for real. Listen, man, I gotta get that money, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what's happening at all at this point. And while I'm in the hospital, there's an artery that runs from your heart into your chest, right? And sometimes that artery can desync with your heart. Occasionally, that artery will go in between the heartbeats. and give you what is essentially an extra heartbeat. So, and the doctor's like looking at it, and he had stepped away initially, and then I started feeling them, and I was like, wow, this feels weird. It feels like, imagine if you like take a water bottle, and that water bottle is your chest, and like once every like minute, you just squeeze it. Like you feel like your heart is skipping a beat. And the doctor's like, oh yeah, that's called a PVC. He's like, you're getting extra heartbeats. He's like, that's weird. You didn't have those 30 seconds ago. He was like, you should keep an eye on that. I was like, is this concerning? And he was like, nah. He's like, I don't think that this, like, these are only concerning if you start getting them back to back from each other. Like in between heartbeats two, 3, 4 times in a row. I haven't had that happen, which is really good. And the doctor's like, apparently 80% of all people on this earth experience them about 2 to 3 times per hour. It's just most people don't feel them because they're asymptomatic. The following 3 weeks after that, I have like earth-shattering panic attacks. For no reason. I was sitting playing a game of Valorant, and I felt like, you know, like when you're on a roller coaster and you're like heading downhill, that like weird sensation that you get in your stomach and your legs as you're like dropping, that like whoosh, you know what I mean? I get fucking waves of that shit, like multiple times. I genuinely feel like I'm gonna die. I go to the hospital 6 more times. For what are essentially like the worst panic attacks I've ever experienced in my life. It got to the point that I got the same EMT, and 3 of the times that I went to the hospital, they put me in the same bed. So I go see a psychiatrist because I'm like something, and my anxiety, by the way, it felt like my anxiety, like you take a dial and you just dial that shit up like 500%. Every single, I was literally walking down the street and I look down at my legs and I see a cockroach, and normally that wouldn't have any effect on me. I would just step around it. Looking down at that cockroach and seeing it next to my leg physically made me jump up. I literally jumped a foot into the air and almost screamed. I saw some guy round the corner in front of me, and I almost had a panic attack because I was like, holy fuck, that's a person. And immediately after, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, that's not like a normal reaction that a person can have. And the first psychiatrist that I see is, I don't like this dude at all. Like, he's not paying attention to me. He's like reading shit off a list. He's not listening to me at all. And he's like, ah, yes, that you have a very well documented condition, which is called steroid-induced psychosis. He's like, yeah, it's like, it's a super well documented condition, like lots of people get that. Like, I'm like, but I didn't feel psychotic. Like, I had like chest pains, but I don't think that like constitutes as psychosis. And I get that like steroids have, you know, like roid rage is like a real fucking thing, right? I was like, that I was not psychotic. Like, that seems like just the wrong part. And he's like, I want you to sweat it out. He's like, I want you to start going to the gym, and I want you to sweat this condition out. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not going on the treadmill while I feel like I'm about to have like multiple heart attacks and panic attacks. And my primary care physician starts running other tests. In the meantime, I book an appointment with another psychiatrist, and that other psychiatrist is talking to me, and he's like, oh my god, this shit happens, but like, that's crazy. So this has been my life the last like 6 weeks. Like, this is the nightmare that I've been living. So the second psychiatrist I see is like, I can prescribe you the beta blocker. He's like, it makes your heart less sensitive to adrenaline and shit. He's like, I genuinely think you need it. You should probably take this for panic attacks as needed. And he's like, we should probably start you on like an SSRI, just so you're not like tweaking the fuck out. Like, you can take it for a couple months, and then like your body's gonna normalize a little bit. Like, sensitivity's gonna go down, you'll be okay. So I got prescribed Lexapro, and I'm getting these PVCs, like, I'm getting hundreds per day. I'm lying in bed, and I'll feel like one every 15 or so seconds, right? So I'm tweaking out, and some sleeping positions make them increase. I somehow managed to fall asleep in between all of this garbage. I go to my primary care physician, and she runs some tests. It turns out I have a stomach infection. So she's like, you're gonna have to take this, like, course of triple antibiotics. She's like, you're taking Tums 4 times a day, antibiotics twice a day. But for 2 weeks, that was like the worst fucking 2 weeks of my entire life. Like, I can't even exaggerate how fucking awful that experience was. And the psychiatrist is like, we talk about the fibromyalgia as well, and the consensus between my cardiologist, my primary care physician, and my psychiatrist. I've seen more doctors in these last 6 weeks than I've seen in probably the last 5 years. What happened was the steroid irritated my already incredibly bloated and irritated stomach, which irritated the nerve that connects your stomach to your heart. So I started experiencing heart sensations when in reality they were stomach sensations. The gastroenterologist was like, yeah, if your acid reflux is bad enough, it can actually just straight up feel like a heart attack, which I didn't know. I didn't know you could get acid reflux so bad that you feel like you're about to fucking croak. I go to the cardiologist and they hook me up to a heart monitor, and I wear that heart monitor for 3 weeks. And they're like, okay, we're gonna run something called the Bruce protocol. What the Bruce protocol is it's a stress test for your heart. They put you on a treadmill, and then you have to run on that treadmill for like 5 to 10 minutes. They see that they're like making sure that everything's okay. And then if you pass that, like, you know, your heart is healthy, it's fine, it's nothing to worry about. It's like treating symptoms from there. I run on the treadmill. My heart acts completely fine. I don't get any PVCs at all. But I'm like, wow, like, I feel kind of dizzy. So they sit me down and I'm like sweating, and they're like, damn, like you're looking a little like worn out. I'm like, yeah, like I don't know, like I think it's because I'm still a little bit sick. They take my blood pressure at the cardiologist. My blood pressure is like almost in stroke territory. My blood pressure shot up to like 180, 190, and they were like, holy fuck, like that's an incredibly hypertensive response. So they're like, you should like just chill here. Let's get you some cold water. Let's like chill. Like if my blood pressure went any higher, I was actually at risk for having a stroke then and there in the doctor's office. They get me some water. I chill out a little bit. They're like, you should watch your blood pressure. Like, you know, keep an eye on it. Don't exercise. They were like, do not exercise for now. Like you are not allowed to exercise because like we don't want you to have a stroke. So that first psychiatrist who was like, I want you to sweat this out. I want you to go to the gym and exercise a bunch, almost fucking killed me. From bad to worse, right? Treat the infection for the stomach. I'm off of it was H. pylori specifically. So I finished my H. pylori treatment, and now this is like week 3 after I finished my treatment. My blood pressure has returned to normal completely. Like I'm 120/80, it's normal. But apparently H. pylori can actually cause a statistically significant difference in your blood pressure. And by the way, at this point, I'm having a panic attack every night. I tried to go to bed at 1 in the morning. I was lying in bed, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check my phone to just see like what time it is, and it's 5 a.m. I'm like, that's fucking weird. And I feel my heart pounding in my ears a little bit. I'm like, that's like, I was just lying in bed. Like, why does it sound like my heart rate's at like 150? And my arms start going numb, and like my fingers are tingling. I'm like, okay, this is probably a panic attack, because like tingling sensations during a panic attack, that's pretty normal. I check my blood pressure, and my blood pressure is like 150/100 again. Check my heart rate, and it's like 155. And I'm like, okay, like that's not good. So I start tweaking the fuck out, and I just call an ambulance again. And at this point, the same EMT who has seen me 3 times at this point shows up at my house, and he's like, hey man, what's up? He's like, how you feeling? I'm like, fucking, how does it look like I'm feeling, motherfucker? I'm like, what's good, gangster? Glad to see you on the shift, my man.
Pry open their mind.
So
find the weakness.
We talk for a little bit, and he's like, my blood pressure goes back down to 120/80 to like something totally completely normal. He's like, you're cascading into it because the prednisone is leaving like some psychological side effects. But he's like, you know, none of this is dangerous. He's like, for like heart health anxiety specifically, like an unhealthy heart would appear on literally every single test. He's like, you've got an echo, you've seen 2 cardiologists, you got a fucking chest x-ray. And my echo was like, literally every single part of my heart is 100% normal size and normal in its function, from what they did. So he was like, listen, like, you shouldn't, he's like, it is scary because this is a new sensation, but if your heart was in serious danger, like, it would appear on quite literally every single test that we would have done at this point. So I go back to see my primary care doctor, and I'm like, okay, like, how long are these side effects gonna be there? Anywhere between 2 weeks to the next 6 months. And I'm like, that's a long ass time, dude. They're like, yeah, like you'll probably be okay by the time the new year rolls around. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking fling myself out a window, dude. However, last night I was trying to go to bed, and I went to bed at 7 in the morning. So last night, I took a walk at 1 a.m. before trying to go to bed. Then I couldn't sleep, and I started getting the PVCs. So then I took a walk at 3 in the morning. Then I lied in bed, and I watched Tarek play some Valorant for a little bit. Then I took another walk at 5 a.m. Then I took another walk, and then I took another walk at like 8 a.m. And then it was 9 a.m. and it was time for me to go to work. And I'm not tired. Like, it is concerning how little tired I feel currently. Like, I feel wide awake. My cardiologist was like, you should start taking that propranolol nightly, because apparently the thing that I've got prescribed for panic attacks is actually the same thing that you would prescribe specifically to control those heart things that I'm feeling. So they're like, oh, well, since you're experiencing them nightly and you're having like bad symptoms, just like take it every night for the next 2 weeks. So that has been the last 6 weeks of my life. And today my psychiatrist was like, okay, the Lexapro that we prescribed you is clearly not enough for you. We're gonna give you a larger dose. So I'm actually starting a larger dose tonight. Like, anytime I get into bed and I start to try to fall asleep, I literally can't. I took 20 milligrams of melatonin last night, and I didn't sleep a fucking wink because I'm not tired. I don't fucking know what to do. Because, like, every single doctor that I've spoken to so far is like, you are, like, by literally every single possible human standard that can be applied to a person when they're being tested to see if a person's okay, by every conceivable human metric, you are 100% fine. And I don't feel fine. What's up, Graham? He's like, doctor's orders, don't play ranked in that game, and don't sign up for tournaments for a little bit. I literally had fucking doctor's orders to not play ranked. Can you believe that? Yeah, literally doctor's orders to not play Tekken. That show's so fucking funny, dude. I've been kind of dying to tell that story because I like, you know, it's much funnier in hindsight. Like, when I was experiencing that shit in the moment, that shit was not very funny. You know what I mean? In the moment, that shit was not very funny. But looking back, doctor's orders to not play Tekken is fucking gangster, dude.